Imagine a world where the sun no longer shines as it should, where the golden warmth of day is replaced by a pale, ghostly light, where midday skies are dim and lifeless, casting no shadows. The air feels heavy. The cold seeps into every stone wall and every bone, and the horizon seems swallowed by an endless twilight. Farmers stare helplessly at their fields, where young shoots wither before they bloom. Fishermen return empty-handed, blaming strange tides and colder seas. Priests whisper to each other in fear, and ordinary people wonder, has the end of the world come? This was a reality in the year 536 AD, a year that historians now call one of the worst in human history, a year when the sun seemed to vanish, not for days, not for weeks, but for more than a year. The ancient world watched in disbelief as the skies dimmed and the seasons broke. Contemporary accounts are chilling in their clarity. The Byzantine historian Procopius wrote, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during the whole year, and it seemed exceedingly like the sun in eclipse." Cassiodorus, a Roman statesman, described the sun as a bluish orb that could not cast a shadow, even at noon. In China, official records speak of yellow dust falling like snow in the summer months and a frost appearing in July. In Ireland, the annals record a failure bred in famine that lasted several years. From Europe to Asia, the story was the same. Something had gone horribly wrong with the world, and it wasn't over quickly. This dimness lingered for at least 18 months in some regions, and its effects stretched for years. Imagine a generation of children growing up never seeing a truly clear, bright day. Imagine the fear of watching each harvest fail, knowing that the next year might be worse. In an age without science as we know it, people turned to superstition, prophecy, and sacrifice in a desperate attempt to explain the unexplainable. It would take over 1,000 years before science began to unravel the truth. In the 20th and 21st centuries, dendrochronology, tree ring studies revealed something striking. From Siberia to North America, tree rings from the years 536 and the years following were unusually narrow, showing a sharp collapse in growth. This meant that summers had become dramatically colder, by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius in some regions. That may not sound like much, but for agriculture, it was devastating. In the Swiss Alps, ice cores provided another clue. Scientists drilled deep into glaciers, extracting frozen layers of history. Inside the layers corresponding to 536 AD, they found tiny particles of sulfate, chemical fingerprints left by volcanic eruptions. These particles are only found in ice when volcanic ashes blasted high into the stratosphere, where winds carried across the globe. Such eruptions can create a veil of fine particles that scatter sunlight, dimming the skies and cooling the earth. The evidence became even more unsettling. The ice cores didn't show just one eruption. They revealed at least 3. The first in 536, the second around 540, and a third in 547 AD. The scale of these events was staggering. Some scientists suggest that the first eruption may have been in Central America, perhaps Ilopango in modern-day El Salvador, while another could have erupted from Iceland's volcanoes, sending ash south over Europe and beyond. These eruptions created a volcanic winter that lasted more than a decade, plunging much of the world into crisis. The human cost was catastrophic. Crops withered in the fields year after year. Grain prices soared beyond what ordinary families could afford. Starvation claimed countless lives. Villages were abandoned. In Britain and across northern Europe, archaeological evidence shows mass population declines. In some areas, up to half the population vanished, dead or driven away in search of food. And then, as if the earth itself had decided to test human survival, another blow struck. In 541 AD, the plague of Justinian erupted. Believed to be an early strain of bubonic plague, it swept through the Byzantine Empire, killing up to a third of its population. Cities that had survived the famine were now crippled by disease. Procopius, who had already chronicled the strange sun, wrote grimly, "Men were free neither from war nor pestilence nor death." It was as though the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse had all arrived at once. The psychological and cultural impact was immense. In Norse mythology, legends speak of Fimbulwinter, 3 successive winters without a summer in between, leading to the end of the world in Ragnarok. Could this myth be a distant echo of the events of 536? In Scandinavia, vast hoards of gold were buried during these years. Archaeologists have long puzzled over why so much wealth was taken out of circulation. Some believe it was a desperate offering to the gods, payment for the sun's return. Religious beliefs shifted. Political landscapes changed. In some regions, new leaders rose to power as old rulers fell, unable to protect their people from famine and disease. The cult of Odin gained strength during this time, reshaping the spiritual identity of Northern Europe. Across the world, societies adapted or collapsed under the pressure of climate, plague, and uncertainty. And yet, for all that science has revealed, mysteries remain. Was it truly only volcanoes that caused the darkened sun? Some scientists point to unusual metallic particles, nickel and tin, found in the ice cores from 536. These could be the remnants of cometary dust or meteor impacts. Others consider the possibility of massive undersea eruptions, which had released both ash and gases into the atmosphere. While the dominant theory still points to multiple volcanic events as the main culprit, the idea that cosmic forces could have been involved makes the story even more unsettling. What we do know is that the events of 536 marked the beginning of what scientists now call the Late Antique Little Ice Age, a century-long period of colder climates and environmental instability. It fueled migrations, toppled empires, and changed the trajectory of human history. Civilizations that had stood for centuries found themselves weakened, paving the way for the rise of new powers in the centuries that followed. Eventually, the skies did clear. The sun returned to its strength. Crops began to grow again, and trade routes reopened. But the memory of those years when the sun disappeared, remain alive in legend and chronicles, and in the scars left on the land and its people. From the ashes of darkness, the world was reborn, forever shaped by the time when light itself abandoned the earth. Even as the sun returned, the shadow it cast over human memory lingered. Survivors spoke of nights that seemed to stretch endlessly, of children born under dim skies, and of elders who whispered warnings to generations that had not yet experienced such fear. Entire communities reshaped their daily lives around the uncertainty of light and warmth, adjusting planning cycles, travel, and trade to the mercurial rhythms of a world that had been broken. Art, literature, and folklore began to reflect this era of dread. Murals, carvings, and writings from the period depict ominous skies, strange celestial events, and figures wrestling with famine and disease. Some historians suggest that the widespread apocalyptic imagery found in later medieval texts may trace its roots back to this global catastrophe, embedding a cultural memory of darkness and vulnerability that would echo through centuries. Yet amidst the despair, seeds of resilience were planted. Societies that endured adapted their technologies, agricultural practices, and governance structures to withstand climatic shocks. Trade networks reformed, religious communities consolidated, and knowledge of survival in extreme conditions slowly spread. The world that emerged after 536 was irrevocably changed, not only scarred by darkness, but tempered by it, a testament to human endurance in the face of nature's most profound and terrifying mysteries. Though the skies eventually cleared and the sun returned, the memory of that dark year lingered in stories, myths, and human memory, a haunting reminder that even the brightest light can fade, and that survival often comes from the strength forged in the shadows. Even as the skies brightened and warmth returned to the earth, the shadow of 536 lingered in every corner of human memory. People spoke in hushed tones of the long nights, of the sun that refused to shine, and of winters that seemed endless. Entire communities had vanished, and those that survived carried the weight of loss, famine, and fear. Art, literature, and folklore bore witness to this time, embedding the darkness into myths that would echo for centuries. Yet from this profound suffering came resilience. Agricultural practices were adapted, trade routes reorganized, and knowledge of survival in extreme conditions was passed down like sacred wisdom. Generations learned to respect the power of nature, to prepare for its unpredictability, and to find hope even when the world seemed shrouded in shadow. The year the sun disappeared became more than a historical event. It became a story of human endurance, a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, life finds a way to persist, adapt, and rise again.